The Young and the Restless spoilers next 2-week full January 20th to January 31st, 2025. The dark schemes of Jordan and Claire. Jordan's hunger for control and revenge knew no bounds. The once calculated woman had grown more dangerous, her thoughts consumed by the idea of eliminating Nikki and Victoria Newman, two powerful figures who stood in the way of her ultimate plans. But Jordan wasn't reckless. She was cunning, and she knew that sometimes the most effective strategy was to let someone else do the dirty work. That someone was Claire, a woman who had proven herself both ambitious and unpredictable. Jordan saw potential in Claire, but she also saw danger. Claire had lured Jordan to an eerie, secluded house under the guise of forming an alliance, but Jordan's instincts had saved her. She sensed the trap waiting for her and stayed away. Even so, Jordan wasn't ready to dismiss Claire entirely. When the two met again, Jordan gave Claire a chilling proposition. If Claire truly wanted to earn her trust, she would have to do the unthinkable. "Prove yourself to me," Jordan said, her voice as cold as the steel of the knife she always carried. "Take care of Nikki and Victoria. They're the only ones standing between us and victory." Claire hesitated, her face betraying no emotion. Deep inside, she knew this was a crossroads. Aligning with Jordan could bring her immense power, but it would also drag her deeper into a world of chaos and violence. She had to make a choice, but whatever decision she made, she kept it to herself. The shadows in her eyes betrayed nothing, leaving Jordan to wonder where Claire's true loyalties lay. Sharon's escape. While Jordan schemed and manipulated, another storm was brewing beneath the surface. Sharon's disappearance had thrown everyone into a state of panic. For days, there had been no sign of her, and whispers of foul play began to spread throughout Genoa City. But Sharon was far from helpless. In truth, she had been held captive in one of Jordan's hidden bunkers, bound by chains and subjected to the relentless taunts of her captor. Yet, Sharon's resilience was unshakable. She had faced darkness before, and each trial had only made her stronger. Through sheer determination, Sharon found a way to break free. Using the sharp edge of a loose pipe she had discovered in the bunker, she managed to cut through her restraints. The process was grueling, her wrists raw and bleeding by the time she was free, but she didn't stop. She navigated the labyrinth of tunnels and traps Jordan had laid, relying on her wits and instincts to guide her. When she finally emerged into the night air, she felt a surge of triumph. She wasn't just escaping, she was reclaiming her power. Jordan's fury back in her hidden lair, Jordan returned to find an empty room. The chains that had once bound Sharon were discarded on the ground, a mocking testament to Sharon's defiance. Jordan's fury was immediate and volcanic. She screamed, her voice echoing through the cold, sterile walls of the bunker. "How did she get out?" she roared, her fists slamming into the nearest surface. Her carefully constructed plans were unraveling, and the loss of control was a bitter pill to swallow. To Jordan, Sharon's escape wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a threat. Sharon knew too much, and if she shared what she had experienced, it could expose Jordan's entire operation. The realization only fueled Jordan's anger, and she vowed to find Sharon and silence her once and for all. Sharon's strength, but Sharon wasn't hiding. As she emerged from the darkness, her resolve burned brighter than ever. She knew she couldn't afford to stay in the shadows. Jordan's reach was vast, but Sharon had allies who cared about her and a family who would fight for her. She also had her own inner strength, honed through years of facing adversity. Sharon didn't fear Jordan. In fact, she relished the idea of facing her captor again, not as a victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. Every step she took back toward Genoa City was a step closer to reclaiming her life and dismantling the web of lies and destruction Jordan had spun. The chessboard of alliances. Meanwhile, Claire remained the wild card in this dangerous game. Her choice to side with or betray Jordan hung over the city like a storm cloud. Claire had her reasons for allying with Jordan, but her loyalty wasn't absolute. She saw the flaws in Jordan's plans and the risks of aligning with someone so volatile. But she also knew that taking down Nikki and Victoria would shift the balance of power in ways that could benefit her. As Claire weighed her options, Nikki and Victoria remained unaware of the danger looming over them. They were focused on finding Sharon, oblivious to the deadly plots forming in the shadows. The rising tension. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Sharon's return to Genoa City would send shockwaves through the community, exposing truths that had been buried and forcing everyone to take sides. Jordan's grip on power was slipping, and her desperation made her more dangerous than ever. Claire's choice, whether to stand with Jordan or betray her, could tip the scales, leading to either salvation or catastrophe. And through it all, the people of Genoa City were left to wonder, who could they trust in a world where alliances shifted like sand and danger lurked around every corner? The answers would soon come, but not without a cost. Cracks in the foundation. Kyle and Claire's struggles. The relationship between Kyle and Claire had always seemed solid to those on the outside. They were an unlikely but intriguing pair. See Kyle, with his confident charm and sharp wit, and Claire, with her enigmatic nature and determined spirit. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Claire's focus on her personal endeavors had created distance between them, both emotionally and physically. Kyle, though initially understanding, began to grow frustrated with the increasing gap in their connection. He wanted Claire to be honest about the struggles she was facing, to confide in him and let him help. But Claire had her own way of dealing with problems. She valued her independence and preferred to handle her challenges on her own terms. "I need you to talk to me, Claire," Kyle had said during one of their rare conversations. "I can't help if you won't let me in." Claire's response was calm but firm. "Kyle, I appreciate your concern, but this is something I need to work through myself. You have to trust me." Her words, though sincere, left Kyle feeling sidelined. The growing distance between them was undeniable, and it left a void that neither of them seemed willing or able to fill. Summer senses an opportunity for Summer. This fracture in Kyle and Claire's relationship was a golden opportunity. She had never completely let go of her feelings for Kyle, and seeing his current relationship falter reignited her determination to win him back. Summer was no stranger to manipulation, and she knew exactly how to play the part of the sympathetic confidant. She began to insert herself into Kyle's life more frequently, finding ways to be there for him when he felt lonely or frustrated. "It must be hard," Summer said one evening, her voice soft and empathetic. "Being with someone who keeps you at arm's length. You deserve someone who's there for you, Kyle. Someone who really sees you." Kyle, caught in the swirl of his own emotions, didn't push her away. Instead, he found himself leaning into Summer's comfort. Her words fed into the doubts he had been harboring about his relationship with Claire, and her presence filled the void that had been growing in Claire's absence. Kyle's flaws come to light. Kyle's character had always been a mix of charm and selfishness. While he had moments of genuine care and vulnerability, his tendency to seek immediate gratification often overshadowed his better qualities. This flaw became glaringly apparent as he allowed his frustrations with Claire to drive him closer to Summer. Rather than addressing his concerns directly with Claire or working to understand her perspective, Kyle chose the path of least resistance. He enjoyed the attention Summer gave him, the way she made him feel needed and appreciated. It didn't take long for him to start questioning whether his relationship with Claire was worth the effort. To Kyle, the growing distance between him and Claire felt like an excuse to let go. He told himself that if Claire truly cared, she would prioritize their relationship. It was a shallow rationalization, but one that Kyle clung to as he allowed himself to drift further into Summer's orbit. Claire's perspective. Unbeknownst to Kyle, Claire wasn't blind to the tension in their relationship. She knew Kyle was struggling with the lack of time they spent together, and she felt the strain as well. But Claire's life was complicated, and she believed that taking a step back to focus on her work was the best way to preserve their relationship in the long run. Claire loved Kyle, but she also valued her independence and refused to compromise on her goals. She thought Kyle understood this about her, and she trusted that their connection was strong enough to withstand the temporary distance. What she didn't realize was how quickly Kyle's loyalty could waver when faced with adversity. Summer's calculated moves as Claire worked tirelessly to resolve her challenges, Summer's manipulation grew more calculated. She positioned herself as Kyle's greatest supporter, constantly reminding him of how much she cared. She played the role of the perfect listener, nodding along as Kyle vented about Claire's distance and his own frustrations. "I just don't understand her sometimes," Kyle admitted one evening, his voice tinged with exasperation. "It's like she doesn't need me." Summer seized the moment, her tone dripping with sympathy. "Maybe she doesn't, Kyle. But you deserve someone who does." Her words lingered in Kyle's mind, planting seeds of doubt that began to take root. Summer's strategy was working, and Kyle, ever impulsive and eager for validation, found himself drawn further into her web. The path forward as the days passed, the situation grew more precarious. Claire, unaware of the growing closeness between Kyle and Summer, continued to focus on her work, believing she was doing what was best for their future. Meanwhile, Kyle drifted closer to Summer, allowing his frustrations with Claire to justify his actions. For Summer, the plan was clear: continue to drive a wedge between Kyle and Claire until there was no relationship left to salvage. For Kyle, the path was less defined. He was torn between his lingering feelings for Claire and the immediate comfort Summer provided. And for Claire, the realization of what was happening had yet to hit, but when it did, it would undoubtedly change everything. The question remained: would Kyle's impulsive nature and Summer's manipulations spell the end for him and Claire? Or would Claire discover the truth in time to confront both Kyle's betrayal and Summer's scheming? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: the choices made in the days to come would alter the course of their lives forever. The Newman family in turmoil. Victor Newman was not a man accustomed to losing control, especially when it came to his family and his empire. But the recent chaos surrounding Jordan, Claire, and the growing tension in Genoa City had begun to test even his patience. What frustrated him most was the discovery that Nikki and Victoria had secretly devised their own plan to confront Jordan, a reckless move, in his eyes. Victor's fury was palpable as he addressed Nikki and Victoria in his office. The imposing patriarch stood behind his desk, his gaze piercing as he spoke. "I have built this family and this company with my blood, sweat, and tears," Victor growled, his voice low but laced with menace. "I will not have either of you jeopardize everything by rushing into some ill-conceived plan." Nikki, ever the voice of reason, stepped forward to calm her husband. "Victor, we were only trying to protect our family. You know how dangerous Jordan is. We couldn't just stand by." Victor's expression softened slightly as he turned to his wife. Despite his anger, he trusted Nikki's intentions. "I understand that, my darling," he said, his tone gentler. "But this isn't about acting on emotion. We need to be smart, calculated. And before we make any moves, I need to know where Claire's loyalties truly lie." Victor's plan. Victor had always prided himself on his ability to outmaneuver his enemies, and this situation was no different. He suspected that Claire might be playing a dangerous game, torn between loyalty to the Newmans and the allure of Jordan's influence. But he wasn't ready to make any accusations without proof. "I want to observe Claire," Victor declared. "I want to see what she's really after. If she's loyal to this family, she'll prove it. If not, well, we'll deal with that when the time comes." Nikki, who had spent decades by Victor's side, understood the wisdom in his words. She knew better than anyone how sharp and strategic her husband could be. "I'll follow your lead, Victor," Nikki said, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "You've always known what's best for this family." But Victoria, ever the headstrong daughter, was less convinced. Victoria's defiance. Victoria trusted Claire. Despite the uncertainty surrounding her motives, Victoria believed in her daughter's loyalty and strength. To Victoria, Claire's struggles weren't a sign of betrayal but of someone caught in a difficult situation. She saw herself in Claire, ambitious, driven, and willing to do whatever it took to protect the people she loved. "Dad," Victoria said, stepping forward, "I know you're trying to protect the family, but you're wrong about Claire. She's one of us. If anything, we should be helping her, not testing her." Victor's eyes narrowed as he turned to his daughter. "Victoria, you're too close to this. Your judgment is clouded. This isn't just about trust, it's about ensuring the survival of this family. I will not risk everything because you want to believe the best in her. The tension between father and daughter was thick, but Victoria didn't back down. I'm not saying we should ignore the risks, she argued. But Claire deserves the benefit of the doubt. She's under a lot of pressure, and the last thing she needs is to feel like we don't trust her. Victor sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. You're too emotional, Victoria. This isn't a debate. You will follow my lead, or you'll find yourself on the outside of this family's decisions. Victoria clenched her jaw, but said nothing further. She wasn't willing to openly defy her father, not yet, but her silence spoke volumes. She had no intention of abandoning Claire, no matter what Victor said. A fragile alliance, the Newman family was now fractured, with Nikki caught in the middle. She understood both sides of the argument, Victor's need for control and caution, and Victoria's fierce loyalty to her daughter. But the growing divide left Nikki feeling uneasy. If they couldn't unite against Jordan, their internal discord could become their greatest weakness. As the tension simmered, Nikki took it upon herself to mediate. She approached Victoria privately, hoping to bridge the gap between her daughter and her husband. Victoria, Nikki said gently, I know this is hard for you. But your father isn't your enemy. He just wants to protect this family, the same way you do. Victoria sighed, her shoulders slumping. I know, Mom. But it's not that simple. I can't just stand by while he questions Claire. She's my daughter. I have to stand by her. And you will, Nikki assured her. But we need to do this the right way. If we start fighting amongst ourselves, we're giving Jordan exactly what she wants. Victoria nodded reluctantly. She knew her mother was right, but the path forward still felt uncertain. What comes next? The Newman family was now caught in a precarious balancing act. Victor's plan to test Claire's loyalty was set in motion, but Victoria's unwavering support for her daughter threatened to disrupt the strategy. Meanwhile, Nikki worked tirelessly to keep the family united, knowing that any crack in their foundation could have devastating consequences. And then there was Claire, the central figure in this storm of suspicion and loyalty. Torn between the Newman family and her own ambitions, Claire's true intentions remained a mystery. Would she prove herself loyal to Victor, or would she align with Jordan in a bid for power? The stakes had never been higher, and every decision carried the weight of potential disaster. With tensions running high and alliances hanging by a thread, one thing was certain: the Newman family's battle with Jordan was far from over.